It's my great pleasure to welcome Calvin Wong to the stage. Calvin is essentially runs all of Asian operations for Warner Music. So he's an expert on all different Asian markets and been in this business a long, long time. So today we're mainly going to talk to Calvin about K-pop. But let's start with your own personal experience with K-pop and how you got involved with it. I think you were way ahead of the curve. The Hallyu wave, you were way, way ahead of that. Maybe you can tell us how you started and how you found it to start with.
Well, hello. Firstly, I don't think I'm ahead of the Hallyu curve. It's just that because of my job requires me to travel a lot, and I've traveled since the 90s in my job as the regional marketing person at that time. I went to Korea, and as usual, you want to check out the local music scene and see what's going on. And I went to Apgujeongdong CD store, and I was fascinated by this CD. It was actually the second album of Seo and the Boys, and it was like, wow, this really blew my mind because you have a guy who's a rocker, and then you have the guy who's now YG as the backup singer. In mashing up between the hip hop and rock at the same time was pretty amazing for me. And I listened to a lot of international repertoire. So that was the beginning of my fascination of the Korean pop music.
Wait a minute, what year are we talking here?
I think it was like 1993 or something.
So slightly ahead of the Hallyu curve, 1993.
Yeah.
And let me get this straight. So the backup singer was Mr. YG, the guy who started YG company.
Yang Hyun-suk was the.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So and Seo is now like a legend rock.
You could say
star.
that, yeah.
So in Korea, yeah. So I was really fascinated, and then obviously, I was trying to capitalize on it. And my not next trip, but another trip that I went back to Korea, which I was really fascinated, was the whole Kayo dance movement, and I like dance music, but I was curious to know what's going on with the Kayo dance movement in Korea, and going to the clubs, and trust me, at that time the clubs were a little different than what it is now.
Than now, yeah.
It was quite incredible scenes going on that night, but and I had fun, a lot of soju, but what stands out was the fact that instead of playing Western dance music, the clubs were playing all Korean dance music. And seeing the crowd reaction to the dance music really fascinated me even more. And you have acts like Turbo and What Have You Not Been Played. And then I heard this female singer, and it was like the crowd went crazy. And I started to ask people, who is that? And they told me her name is Lee Jung-hoon, and they were playing two songs. I think it's Bakwo and Wa, and I was like, man, I gotta bring this amazing experience and amazing song and production to the Chinese pop. At that time, Hong Kong is still likes to do covers and whatever you not. So I brought the CD the next day, brought it back to Hong Kong. This is in 1999. 1999. And we have a big female singer in Hong Kong called Sammy Chang. And we sell it to her that this is an amazing song to cover. She was a bit hesitant at the start, but we managed to convince her to do it. And Bakwo became Sat 4 in Hong Kong. And it was one of the biggest dance hits in the Chinese market. In fact, it was so good that we did a Mandarin version and a Cantonese version, and both songs was a hit. And as a result of that, Lee Jung-hoon becomes very big outside of Korea as well. So, we actually secured a license legitimately, so we didn't plagiarize it or anything. And Lee Jung-hoon becomes very popular in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and I think she came and do shows. I actually did try and license Lee Jung-hoon, but I didn't get the licensing of the album, but she had a bit of a career in the region as well.
Right.
So that kind of and you start to have more confidence in the Korean pop. And like I said, having been an international marketing person is exciting because you don't have that in the Western pop.
Right.
And I think that was really a unique point that you can talk about all the other factors, but I think the most important factor in our business is about finding something exciting to get into as far as music-wise or performance-wise. And I think at that time, K-pop was a turning point because it has something that the West don't have.
Right.
The kind of excitement in terms of the performance. You know, if you remember Lee Jung-hyun, he has that like supposedly the speaker in his finger. And it was amazing, you know, it was so creative. It was way ahead of Lady Gaga, as far as I'm concerned at that time.
Right.
So yeah, it was very interesting. And then the next act that from my career that I licensed in 2002 was another young singer, came out with the first album. His name is Rain. So I think the first album is called Bad Guy. That was 2002. And I think I licensed the album way too early because he was just starting. It was a reasonable success. And then we spent a lot of money. I remember we lost a lot of money in Taiwan, but it's okay, Jimmy. Jimmy from JYP.
Jimmy's here.
Yeah, Jimmy's here. But then he did the Full House drama series. And that drama series was also one of the early Korean drama that kind of exported outside of Korea as well.
Right.
And suddenly he's a household name.
Right.
And then her second album became a big smash across the region. I managed to talk to Jimmy and say, you need to license me back the third album so I can make some money back, which he did. And the fourth album, and then he became what he became on the first so-called the Korean wave.
Right.
And not just Rain, but a few others like SES
Sure.
and so on. And
Sure.
then you have Shinhwa and stuff. I think, yeah, and then the second wave came along, and then all these Korean dramas become super successful. I think everybody knows about this already. So, but what really fascinates me was still, you know, having dealt with, you know, our global labels like Atlantic and Warner Brothers and so on and so forth, was the fact that Korean pop was creating something amazingly unique in its own way.
Right.
And the capability of how the production houses like YG and SM and JYP and so on, and it's creating really a musical movement. It's not even, it's like hip hop, you know?
Right.
Back in the day. I mean, the K-pop, one day in 20, 30 years' time, we're going to be talking about this like part of music history.
Right.
On a global
It's
basis.
its own genre, for
It's
sure.
its own genre.
Right.
So what's happening right now, we're just in the middle of that cycle as far as I'm concerned. There is more to come, and there's more exciting music to come from the Korean producers. And that's very, very fascinating.
Right. Well, just to touch on a couple of things you said. I mean, first of all, clearly you were way ahead of the Hallyu wave to license Rain. Even the other stuff before that, but to license Rain in 2002 is very much ahead. I think people here probably know, but Hallyu didn't really start to break. I mean, Japan was the earliest country to really take it up, and I don't think you can really find much before 2005.
2005 is
2005 with BoA is the first artist to really break in Japan from Korea.
And then
so that's the first thing.
Dongbang Shinki as well.
Oh, of course. So Shinki is huge. Those two, they're kind of together. BoA's a little bit earlier. But I also want to point out, I think we have music industry people here, so they'll know it, but it's worth pointing out that a great way to break an artist into a new territory is to cover a song or to do a collaboration with a song that's already popular in that territory. Like you said, Sammy Chung is going to have a huge hit with that and also help Korean artists break into the Chinese market. Let's move on to K-pop today and the globalization of K-pop. In other words, the worldwide success of K-pop. I mean, so many factors have contributed to it, but I think that probably the first thing that we could point to, other than the fact that it's, like you say, just really exciting, good music that's bringing something new to the game, that's really a crucial factor. But after that is the way that K-pop and the Korean industry in general has used social media. I think that that's, you know, a crucial factor. Maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fact that Korean is pride themselves as being very ahead in technology, and you know they just not talk about this, but they're actually doing it, and they put a lot of effort. I think, you know, you can see the successful ones. They have an amazing digital strategy. I think the way Korea at that time with Samsung, LG making a huge global, success with their
Impact,
product.
yeah, yes.
I think they also start to look at it at the global level, which is quite interesting, right? Because with the new social media and online, you don't have to have borders. Back in the day, you build borders. Oh, please release a CD in Malaysia or Singapore. Or now you don't have to. With digital media, digital streaming services, whether it's KKBox or Spotify or Melon or whatever, you don't have boundaries anymore. So you can actually reach the whole world. And I think the production house has done a very good job of that. It's something that other countries in Asia could learn as well,
Absolutely.
And if you go to their website in China, you can actually translate it into the Chinese language. You have traditional Chinese, you have simplified Chinese, you have English, you have Japanese, and you have Korean. I mean, that is thinking globally. I think that's amazing as
and very
far as
important,
I'm concerned,
yeah.
and I'm learning from them as a multinational. So that's amazing.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that Korean and other Asian territories too have been using social media very effectively to promote their music. I think part of it, and this is sort of counter to the idea of a digital strategy, but part of it is also just a great product. I mean, for Psy particularly, I think of, when they released that video, Gangnam Style, originally, it didn't have English subtitles on it. And it was still a huge hit because the product itself, the song itself is so catchy. So there's both sides, If
I actually have a story on Psy, but I'm not going to say it because
please tell
I
us.
lost to Universal, so I'm not,
But you can tell us.
It was an interesting conversation, and I have a relationship with YG, as you know. Warner actually distribute a lot of YG content outside of
yes, of course,
Korea.
right.
So, but it was. I'll keep it secret.
You lost that battle.
Yeah, I lost
that
battle.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
The biggest
Scooter Braun won.
Yeah, K-pop
Yes.
star ever. Well, let's move on to the way Korean management companies, groom and prepare their talent. I mean, I think it's like no other. I mean, you could maybe compare it to Japan, but it's maybe even more intense than Japan.
I think, Rob, the important thing is not just to look at because if you really want to ask me today, and I want to impart what I know, I mean, not that I've groomed any successful Korean act, but being an observer of this Korean pop, the real critical point is that there are a lot of K-pop idol acts and girl groups and boy bands in Korea, but only some of them become very, very, very successful. Right? And so rather than just generalizing it, you look at the ones that are successful and why they're successful. And to every success story, there is a very good company that backed it up. There's a company that's willing to take a huge amount of risks and investment and time and dedication and expertise put into it. Because it's so easy to create an idol group right now in Korea if you have money, but it's so difficult to create the good ones that can excel.
Right.
And if you look at the history of, SM and YG and JYP, they are definitely the trendsetters. They plan it meticulously well. They groom them well. They get the best songs, and nowadays they even hire people who, if they're not talented, you're not getting into the boy band. You got to learn how to write songs, and
right.
So it's that whole A&R process that to me is still the most important factor, And then you couple that with the investment, the best music video, the best choreographer, and the support that you get behind it, And then finding the right partners like Warner maybe, and
right.
so on outside of Korea.
Right.
And then you have a global superstar like Big
right.
Bang, for example, right? So that to me is really, really, really important, because as many as which is famous right now, who will be performing tonight, there are hundreds of others who are not famous. Someone
right.
was telling me last year there are like over 100 boy band and girl groups.
Sure.
I don't think there are 100 performing tonight. Maybe quite a few, but not 100.
But the ones that are performing tonight are
but
pretty
the ones,
famous. Yeah.
But they are the ones who are successful, and there are
Right.
reasons for it. And a lot
Right.
of that has been the capability of the people behind it, whether it's the A&R, for example. What kind of songs do you need to sing? You just can't sing any song and expect it to be a hit now.
Right.
And even our labels from America has been like asking me, is like, oh, well, we have boy band and girl groups. I say, like, you got to study what's going on in K-pop, because it's not as simple and as easy as everybody claim it is.
Right. No, I agree with that.
I think those points are super important.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole number of points that we could go through to point out why K-pop and Korean bands have been successful. I think those are a couple. We're running out of time. I really want to ask you about the future growth of K-pop in the U.S. and the U.K. I mean, it's hugely popular in Asia. It's hugely popular across the world, even in South America. But the U.S. growth has been slower. What do you see the future of K-pop in the U.S. and the U.K.?
I think it's always going to be, for me, I personally don't think K-pop should force themselves into the US market. Let US market embrace it organically. I mean, look, Big Bang and Girls' Generation, all these groups have toured in the US, twice, and I saw Jimmy over there, so I'm gonna mention JYP artists, and they have toured in these countries. So let it grow organically, and over time, there'll be one or two which will stand out and break through. Wow. Don't force it. Every time we force it in the history, how many Japanese acts have gone to the US and failed? How many Asian artists have gone to the US and failed, right? And the reason Psy didn't fail is because he remained Korean. So he doesn't suddenly become American, but he remained Korean. I think that, let it grow organically, and the world is now so small, people will learn to appreciate it a lot better.
Right.
So
right.
that's my view of America. It
Yeah.
will be big, but it will always be big in a special segment.
Right.
Like anime, for example, is huge in America, but it's a specialized area.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think a lot of people, have different opinions about that, but that's an interesting one. We only have a few seconds left. I'd really love to know what Warner has planned for the region for 2017.
So I'm not sure you know, but I've spent 4 years now as an acting CEO for Warner Music Korea.
Right.
Because it's so difficult to get good, talented executives in Korea, because most of them decided to start their own production houses. And we have a new CEO now. We have plans to go into domestic repertoire, but I want us to go in there very smart, knowing what's going on in the marketplace, and just not think and underestimate the difficulties of getting to the K-pop business. So hopefully in the next year or so, you'll see some kind of initiative in Warner Music Korea that maybe in a few years' time I can come in and tell you how successful it is. And if I'm not back, that means it's not successful. So, yeah.
So hopefully we'll see you a year or two talking about the great superstars you've created.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Okay. Thank you so much, Calvin Wong. I really appreciate it.